Hey guys, we're having a look at a relatively lengthy topic today, which is about giving and receiving. On this first slide, we're looking at giving something between other people, including family members. So we are assuming that there is a level of familiarity here. So we don't need to be overly polite. We start out with the giver, followed by wa. We then insert the recipient, followed by ni, the thing that we're giving, and we finish with o. Agemasu. Agemasu is the must form for ageru, which is the verb to give something. So for example, Tom gives a book to Sue. Tom-kun wa Sue-san ni hon o agemasu. Now, if we wish to switch that around, we can do so quite easily. We just need to change the verb at the end, and also we need to change the order of the recipient and the giver. So in this case, we're going to have the recipient first, followed by wa, the giver followed by ni or kara, the thing that we are giving, and the verb moraimasu, which is the must form of the verb morao, which means to receive. So for example, Tom receives a book from Sue. Tom-kun wa Sue-san ni or Sue-san kara hon wo moraimasu. So in this case, our particle ni is acting like our word kara, which means from. Now please note, another verb also means to give, and that verb is yaru or yarimasu, and it is used for giving things to animals or to plants. On our second slide here, we can see that we are giving something between the speaker and others who are equal or junior, as well as family members. So for example, I or we, followed by wa, then the recipient, followed by ni, and then the thing plus o agemasu. So it's relatively the same as the first example that we see back here on our slide. So in this case, I or we give a book to Sue as opposed to Tom. Watashi tachi wa Sue-san ni hon o agemasu. Again, we can flip that around as we did in the previous example, where we have the recipient first, followed by wa, then the giver, followed by ni or kara, the thing, and finish with o moraimasu. So for example, I or we receive a book from Sue as opposed to Tom receiving a book from Sue. Watashi tachi wa Sue-san ni hon wo moraimasu. And then in our last pattern here, we can have the giver followed by wa or ga. Then in this case, we can have me or us, followed by ni. Then we have the thing, and we finish with o kuremasu. So for example, Sue gives me or gives us a book. Sue-san wa or ga watashi tachi ni hon o kuremasu. On our next slide, we can see here the difference between wa or ga. On our previous slide, we can see in our final example here, we can choose from either wa or ga. You're probably wondering why or what's the difference and how do we know when to use which. So the use of ga or wa after the giver will depend on the emphasis. So for example, Sue gave me a book. So in this case, book is the more important part of the sentence. It's where we want to place the emphasis. Sue-san wa hon wo kuremashita. So we're going to follow with wa. Wa gives us the emphasis on the word book. And then if the emphasis is more so on Sue, it's Sue who gave us a book, we can say Sue-san ga hon wo kuremashita. So she is the most important part of this sentence. Now please note, don't use agemasu when you want to say that someone gives to you, the speaker. You should use kuremasu. And also note that watashi wa and watashi ni are usually not needed if the meaning is already clear about the fact that you are the one receiving something. And on our final slide, we can look at how to express an action between the speaker and others who are senior to the speaker. So someone that you need to show a certain level of formality towards or politeness. In our first example, we can have I or we again, followed by wa, and then the senior person, followed by ni, and then the thing, and we finish with o sashiagemasu. So it's relatively the same as what we've seen in the past few slides, but we are changing our verb once again. In this case, it's sashiagemasu, which is a more polite or keigo version of the verb agemasu. So for example, I or we will give a book to the teacher. Watashi tachi wa sensei ni hon wo sashiagemasu. Now we can again flip that around and we can start with I or we, followed by wa, the senior person followed by ni or kara, the thing we're talking about, and we finish with o itadakimasu. So for example, I or we receive a book from the teacher. 私たちは先生に本をいただきます。or 私たちは先生から本をいただきます。So いただきます is the keigo form of もらいます. And you probably heard this before, especially before eating. And again, that is a humble form of being grateful to receive something. And then in our last option here, we have the senior person followed by wa or ga, then me or us, followed by ni, and then the thing that we're talking about, and we finish with o kudasaimasu. So in this case, kudasaimasu is the keigo version of kuremasu. So the teacher kindly gives me or us a book. Sensei wa or sensei ga watashi tachi ni hon wo kudasaimasu. So again, the use of wa or ga will depend on what is the most important part of this sentence. If the fact that the teacher gave you a book is the more important part, then we're going to use sensei ga. However, if the fact that you've received a book is the most important part of the sentence and the part that you want to place emphasis on, you'll say sensei wa and then the rest of the sentence. So that's about all for this one. It's a relatively lengthy topic and can be a little confusing, but at the end of the day, we have our verbs agemasu, which is give, moraimasu, which is to receive, kuremasu, which is to be given something, and then the polite forms of those, which is sashiagemasu for give, itadakimasu to receive, and kudasaimasu, I was given something. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know.